Capitalism can't survive this crisis. We have to effectively quarantine everybody, and you can't have a quarantine capitalism. It has to be connected. So this is where the state has to take over in the same way that it did during the Second World War.
It seems to me, though, what you're arguing for is the onshoring, the renationalisation of a lot of industries and also supply chains, so you have that sort of security, and also the job creation that goes with that.
Yeah, I mean, nationalisation meaning bringing it back to the nation state rather than saying the state has to run it. But yes, we have to have production much more localised. The whole globalised idea is, the fantasy of comparative advantage in its own right, but also that's where the fragility comes from. Without those globalised supply chains, this virus, we're having nothing like the impact that it's having right now. Yeah. So it's showing that resilience matters as much as or more than efficiency, and we've pushed efficiency past its limits. And now we have no resilience, and now we're seeing that impact with this disease.
If capitalism knows the cost of everything and the value of nothing, how is it going to pay for this as a system?
This is the whole how do you pay for it? We can't afford to that, so we're all going to have to die of a contagious disease.
Right, which puts the financial industry above human life.
Yeah, the financial sector has to be the servant here. It should always have been the servant.
But it became a master, didn't it?
Yes,
Since 1984, our favourite graph on this show that you published is that debt from 1984 when Thatcher came to power, the so-called liberation movement, the finance liberation movement, look at it.
And it almost quadrupled the level of private debt, that's all it really did.
So how do we get finance to become the servant?
Yeah, quantitative easing has shown that the central bank can create as much money as it likes for whatever purpose it likes. Now, at the moment, its purpose is maintaining asset prices and allegedly having a wealth effect so people consume out of that. We could do what Francis Coppola calls quantitative easing for the people. Yeah. I call it a modern jubilee, where the state's capacity to create money is used to give people cash. That means they can pay their bills, pay their mortgages, pay their rent, buy basic food while the crisis goes on, while they're not working and while they're quarantined. So if I can go through the technical...
Briefly.
Very simple. The Treasury issues what you can call corona bonds. Those corona bonds, you can even issue like £1 trillion worth of them for the UK economy, let's say.
Who buys them?
The finance sector will snap them up because at the moment that's the only thing that's not plunging in value. So they'd be oversubscribed. As many as you produced, generated would be sold. That is then used to finance a per capita injection into everybody's bank accounts, sufficient to mean they can pay the average person, not the super wealthy. The average person and below can pay 3 months' rent or mortgage and food for their children and themselves for 3 months and be quarantined in the meantime.
Right.
And that is essential to break the growth of the virus. Then, when it grows more slowly after that, we still continue the cash supports.
What do you say to those people who think MMT, modern monetary theory, is loony stuff? There shouldn't be a magic money tree. And actually, if you flood the economy with all that capital, ultimately you're going to get a default risk further down the line.
Default or which do you prefer, defaulting or dying? This is one case where we will lose the human resources and the physical resources unless we provide an alternative means to create money to the credit system. The credit system on its own would cause a cascade of bankruptcies, which would mean the payment system breaks down. If we actually try to do this in a market-based system, banks will fail. People who expect to be paid mortgages will fail. The mortgagees themselves will fail. The whole thing will break down and we'll be in Mad Max territory. The only way to prevent Mad Max is for a while to emphasise the state's capacity to create money, to inject that directly into people's accounts so they can remain solvent while we go through this crisis. Otherwise, capitalism will be closed for business permanently rather than temporarily.